Hey everyone, good afternoon. Here is a news update from, well, it's all over breaking news. This one's ABC News, but it's really from the U.S. Coast Guard about the Titan submersible. And here, so let's listen to what's going on here. And with that, I will.
Operated vehicle found a debris field in the search area near the Titanic. That briefing underway. Listen.
This morning, an ROV, or remote operated vehicle, from the vessel Horizon Arctic discovered the tail cone of the Titan submersible approximately 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic on the seafloor. The ROV subsequently found additional debris. In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. Upon this determination, we immediately notified the families. On behalf of the United States Coast Guard and the entire Unified Command, I offer my deepest condolences to the families. I can only imagine what this has been like for them, and I hope that this discovery provides some solace during this difficult time. Additionally, we've been in close contact with the British and French Consuls General to ensure that they are fully apprised and that their concerns are being addressed. The outpouring of support in this highly complex search operation has been robust and immensely appreciated. We are grateful for the rapid mobilization of experts on the undersea search and rescue, and we thank all of the agencies and personnel for their role in the response. We're also incredibly grateful for the full spectrum of international assistance that's been provided. The ROVs will remain on scene and continue to gather information. Again, our most heartfelt condolences go out to the loved ones of the crew. We'll now take questions.
That's really sad. What are you asking me? What are you asking me?
Okay. This was a incredibly complex case, and we're still working to develop the details for the timeline involved with this casualty and the response. And so we'll provide that eventually.
James Matthews from Sky News. What other debris have you found? And have you found any trace of those who were?
So this is an incredibly complex operating environment on the seafloor, over 2 miles beneath the surface. And so the remote operating vehicle has been searching, and it is highly capable. And we've been able to classify parts of the pressure chamber for the Titan submersible. Let me refer to one of my undersea experts here, Mr. Paul Hankin, to talk about the nature of some of the debris.
Let me explain something, folks. My mother's here, but she was saying it blew up. What happened was that it didn't blow up. It went down and it imploded. So it was impacted by so much pressure that it quite literally, it was crushed. The only question is, when did it happen and why? Because it's not like this is the first trip thing has ever made. It's made a bunch of them. And so the question is, what happened this time? Was it lack of maintenance? Something went wrong, because, James Cameron went down in a submersible to make raising the Titanic. So it's not an unusual thing to do. But there's something technically that happened. A friend of mine said that this guy was, he misrepresented some things. He said that he was, that NASA was involved in it. NASA said they never looked at or did any testing, as did the University of Washington. The University of Washington said they never tested it. So my friend described him as Stoken Rush is his name, as a Yahoo. He's a CEO of OceanGate. And so anyway, let's continue listening. This is, you have to explain to your children because this is the news, and it's sad news.
Thank you, Admiral. So essentially, we found 5 different major pieces of debris that told us that it was the remains of the Titan. The initial thing we found was the nose cone, which was outside of the pressure hull. We then found a large debris field. Within that large debris field, we found the front end bell of the pressure hull. That was the first indication that there was a catastrophic event. Shortly thereafter, we found a second smaller debris field. Within that debris field, we found the other end of the pressure hull, the aft end bell, which was basically comprised of the totality of that pressure vessel. We continue to map the debris field, and as the Admiral said, we will do the best we can to fully map out what's down there.
It's a very difficult question to ask, but it would be an important one for the families, of course. But what are the prospects of recovering the bodies of the missing crew?
So the questions was related. I'm restating the question from the standpoint of sometimes it's hard to hear the question here. What are the prospects for recovering crew members? And so this is a incredibly unforgiving environment down there on the seafloor, and the debris is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel. And so we'll continue to work and continue to search the area down there, but I don't have an answer for prospects at this time.
Admiral Sean Costello at NBC News. Is there any suggestion? Sorry, any suggestion at all that the sub itself collided with the wreckage of Titanic, or that instead it might have imploded above the wreckage and then rained down nearby?
So the question was, is there any question as to whether or not the sub collided with the Titanic or whether it imploded above and debris field created from that? So the location of the Titan submersible was in an area that was approximately 1,600 feet from the wreck of the Titanic. I have an expert here that is familiar with that area and can talk about the debris field and what the debris field indicates in terms of where the casualty may have occurred.
Rear Admiral, really quickly, can you tell me when that massive fleet will be called back?
The expert voice is coming up to answer the question.
Thank you, Admiral. So the question is, where does the wreck lie in relation to the Titanic? I didn't hear the Admiral's answer. I think 1,600 feet. Was that correct, Admiral? So that's off the bow of Titanic. It's in an area where there is not any debris of Titanic. It is a smooth bottom. There, to my knowledge and anything I've seen, there's no Titanic wreckage in that area. And again, 200 plus meters from the bow, and consistent with the location of last communication for an implosion in the water column. And the size of the debris field is consistent with that implosion in the water column.
Well, if I can ask a question, in terms of the timing here, you say that this was a catastrophic implosion. And I know it's early on, but is it your estimation that this happened right at the moment when they lost contact, an hour and 45 minutes after their descent?
So the question was about the timing of the catastrophic implosion. Right now, it is too early to tell with that. We know that as we've been prosecuting this search over the course of the last 72 hours and beyond, that we've had sonar buoys in the water nearly continuously and have not detected any catastrophic events when those sonar buoys have been in the water. So.
And can you describe what happens from here, sir, in the next days and weeks?
That's not.
The question was, what happens from here? What's the next phase? And so right now, again, our thoughts are with the families and making sure that they have an understanding as best as we can provide of what happened and begin to find some closure. In terms of the large process, we're going to continue to investigate the site of the debris field. And then I know that there's also a lot of questions about how, why, and when did this happen. And so, those are questions that we will collect as much information as we can on now, while the governments are meeting and discussing, what an investigation of this nature of a casualty might look like. This is something that happened. I'll just remind everybody. This is something that happened in a remote portion of the ocean with people from several different countries around the world. And so it is a complex case to work through, but I'm confident that those questions will begin to get answered.
From the UK, is there any suggestion that time factors, speed, anything could have prevented this or saved 5 people on board, or is this quite simply a catastrophic?
The question was there any suggestion that time factors may have played a role or a consideration in the casualty here? And so the debris field is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel. Again, while we were prosecuting the search, we had listening devices in the water throughout and did not hear any signs of catastrophic failure from those. And so we're going to continue to investigate, or we're going to continue to document the information there and understand, based on all the information we have, the timeline.
What does it mean for the resources required for the investigation? Which should be pulling out and coming out?
So the question was, what are the resources required for the investigation, and which ships will be pulling out and staying in? And so it's too early for me to talk about an investigation. That's a decision that's going to be taken outside of the search and efforts that I was leading. But we do have a number of vessels. We have 9 vessels on the scene right now. We had medical personnel on scene. We had other technicians on scene. And so we will begin to demobilize personnel and vessels from the scene over the course of the next 24 hours. But we're going to continue remote operations on the sea floor. And I don't have a timeline for when we would intend to stop remote operations on the seafloor at this point.
As a result of this, do you think there should be changes in the way these are safety rated or inspected so that this won't happen again?
Yeah, the question was essentially about do you think that there should be changes in safety ratings or inspection for these standards? I know that there's a lot of questions about why, how, when this happened, and the members of the Unified Command, have those questions too, as professionals and experts that work in this environment. And this is an incredibly difficult and dangerous environment to work in out there. But those questions about the regulations that apply and the standards, that's going to be, I'm sure, focus of future review. Right now,
I want to freeze here because this photograph is of the people who lost their lives. Hamish Harding, Chanza Daewoo, Suleiman Daewoo, Paul Henry Nargasi, and Stockton Rush. And if you're wondering who they are, the Washington Post here has a brief on them, and that's Stockton Rush, who is the CEO of Ocean Gate. There, that's his photograph. And then there is, we scroll down here, there's Hamish Harding, and there's Paul Henry Nargalet, and there's, well, those are the ones that are listed. They didn't list, oh, excuse me. There's Shahzada Dawood, and what appears to be his son, Suleiman Dawood. It's very sad. He was taking his son on an expedition. And yeah, so say a prayer for them, because what it appears is that they, we're talking about how much oxygen they had and how many days left and everything. But from what we're hearing, they basically, we went down and the thing was crushed. So none of that even applied. And so it was days gone by and no one really knew what happened. And they may have, I'm just speculating now, it's all speculation, but they were talking about those sounds that they heard, the banging. And I think that was delayed from when they were just banging for help, knowing that whatever was going on down there, they figured they were in trouble and they started banging, thinking somebody might hear it. But what gets me is that this call for the involvement of the Coast Guard, which is taxpayer money, and then they represent other countries, and so those governments are involved, and so the governments need to get together, and have I'm looking at my mother as I talk, but, have some regulations about going down there, because what strikes me is how little that thing was, and that's what strikes me, just how little that thing was. And I was saying to my mom off camera, I would never be in the ship to begin with, right? And I even had, when I was ship checking as a teenager, I had a hard time. I got used to it eventually, but I said I would never want to be hired as a sailor, right? But that's me. My point is, there should be some standards for taking care of the human condition, because that reminds me, this is a private expedition, but to show you how connected we really are, it involved what eventually was a public cost. We had to pay for their search and rescue, and so if we ultimately are going to have to do that, then and I said, we as the government's the people, then the people need to have some standards for all those who choose to do those expeditions. It can't be thought of as, well, it's this free thing that you get to do the way you want to do it, because apparently the CEO of Ocean Gate said that when you can go above and beyond the base regulations that it takes, or the base engineering that it takes to go down there. But clearly he didn't do that. Something happened, right? Something happened.
Now we should be concerned about the families
Yeah, my mother's saying right now we should be concerned about the families, so she's right. Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
And sort of in the next couple of days, take on all the things that may have caused it, the things that'll keep it from happening again. I mean, even though you know that operation was something that maybe you would not have done, but that affected all of us, because I would go to bed at night worrying about those people. And so there needs to be some kind of controls over what people do.
Yeah. And I think about that with respect to space, because we have...
Our condolences go to their families. That should be on all of our minds right now.
Yep.
Praying for those people and the kind of suffering that they're doing. Because if that's a relative of yours, then you're going to be concerned about, oh my God, what did they go through? How, all of that. So that's the proper way to handle this right now, is to pray for the families and give them all the strength they can with what has happened to their relatives.
Yep,
And
there it
maybe
is.
tomorrow take up all the other things that go along with preventing a bad accident like this.
And for those of you who are watching this who may be teenagers, and you're familiar with like the Fantastic Four or other comic book stories, a lot of those stories present a private individual or individuals have a lot of money who go on a space exploration or something, and something catastrophic happens to them. But here's where fantasy separates reality. In those stories, no one ever talks about the cost that government has to pay for a private expedition gone wrong, okay? And so if you're going to go out there and you're headed to Comic-Con and thinking that you want to make a breakthrough in entertainment, think about it from the standpoint of telling a story that looks at it from the perspective of the people and how they're impacted, the loved ones, the families, the governments have to pay for it, what caused it and what prevented it. That story has not been told in all these decades of stories like the Fantastic Four. Think about it. So with that, subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com. And in about 40 minutes, I'll have Guy Hobbs on, who was the Bond creator for the Raiders Stadium and for the to-be-built Oakland A's ballpark in Las Vegas. That ends this broadcast.